told you guys we were true fans of the UFL. There's nothing more true than when me and Donnie were texting during the games, during the weekend. He literally said, I'm taking notes, like I'm chomping at the bit to talk about this stuff. I can't wait till we're back on the air. We're back on the air tonight. I just want to say before we jump in, and I'm going to kick it right over to Donnie because he truly is excited. Thank you for liking and subscribing. We saw a really good viewer uptick on the video last week. We're going to continue to bring you lineup builder shows on the UFL, and they're not always going to cash. Like this one did not cash. We'll get into it. But this is transparently what we played and what we thought and why we thought it. And so I really just wanted to shout out all the people who gave us a chance, who left some good comments. So thanks for that. Donnie, go ahead with your notes.
Okay. First and foremost, I think the biggest difference this year compared to every other year of spring football is there's a lot of continuity this year. A lot of teams didn't change. And the offensive lines actually looked good for the first time, I would say, ever in spring football. We have never seen good offensive line play beforehand. This week looked decent. Like I trusted the O-lines to block and get run lanes for the backs, which is why we haven't played running backs very often, because the running game didn't work because the offensive lines didn't know each other. They weren't good. It's not that they weren't good, but they didn't have that communication right.
Right. So you basically were just playing the most talented dude in the best spot, and that was the only running back that was even decent.
Yeah. And
to be fair, that sort of worked this week. The 50% owned Sailors was like the top running back.
Well, yes, but the best running back, the top play of the week, no one played. A 0% owned was the highest scoring guy as of Saturday night. I don't know if Sunday changed that, but I'm pretty sure it was a 0% owned was the top scorer this week.
You know who it was?
It was. Let me double check. It was the first. I think it was the first game. Is DK Live gonna show me or no?
It won't show you.
DK Live does not have UFL.
I know Harris had a good game at under like 1%, the backup for Sailors. But that's just because, like you were saying, with the Battlehawks, their offensive line was tremendous, and they ran all over the place in that first game.
Was it Sailors backup that went off as well? Actually, I'll just look at the stats. He was 0% owned. Like he had nobody on the single entry. Nobody owned him. He was a minimum price running back who scored like 26 points.
Okay, see, that's what threw me off because in our contest, I accidentally entered this in a 20 entry max. So he was like, I think almost 1%, but that's a 20 entry max. No. But still, yeah, he was very low owned. I want to, like I was telling Doug before the show started, I think a lot of people are going to overreact to week one, and this is the time where we might be able to capitalize on it. I do think people are going to assume that the rushing game for the Battlehawks might be way better than what it is. I mean, I know their offensive line played very well, and Sailors did everything. He actually was under 100 yards rushing, so like he could have had a bigger game. I just feel like people are going to overreact, and Harris is one of those overreactions that I won't be to them.
Houston, to me, is still the worst team in this league. They were the worst team last year, right next to DC. They're going to be the worst team again.
Maybe that's the takeaway, that we just target running backs against Houston because
last year we got to the point where I think every week we played the defense against Houston or DC, and it didn't matter which one. And that's just continuously what we were doing.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any other notes?
Another thing, like, I think a big thing was just, like, don't chase too much. Because, like, Samson Nakua, I know I talked.
Oh, no.
I think we might have lost Donnie. He was having 10.
One of them turned into a missed tackle.
Hold on, Donnie. You cut out, man.
Okay. One of them, like the Samson Nakua thing.
Yeah.
He had I know I said I wanted to play him potentially, but he had 2 targets in 1 touchdown, and that touchdown was off a terrible missed tackle. Granted, Nakua made the play, but that's not something I'm looking forward to every week. He's gonna get like 2 targets a game.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Like that big play, maybe they do open him up more. But,
maybe. But Michigan always.
As of right now, I get you. We have to see it. If he produces again, he might merit more targets.
On the opposite end of that, we saw Butler, who is 9,000. We saw Butler at 9,000 get basically 0 points. I think he ended up getting like 3. He got an end zone target. They just used him very sparingly, but they were up so much and the rushing game was working so well. And he was coming off injury the first game of the season where they don't have that much they don't have an NFL preseason. They don't have a lot of practice like the NFL does when they ramp up, when they're coming back from injuries. And they didn't need him because their rushing game was working so well. So that's another spot, Gove, where I just feel like the overreaction could be so steep next week because he was 9% owned. He was very expensive. I think he was more expensive than Kirkland. And now people were like, well, he only got 3 points. So here's the goal, never to pay for wide receivers. So then everyone's just going to pay for the expensive running backs. And I never thought Sailors was a bad play, but I honestly liked Harris as a running back. So I just didn't think – I did not think Sailors would get the workload that he got. And truly, he didn't get a ton of great workload. To be honest, he was just super efficient. So that's one of the things where going into next week, I think we could play Sailors, but it's almost that discussion of like, do you expect the consistency and the efficiency?
It's also the ownership. Like if he's going to come in at 54% owned or whatever he was, something like that in most tournaments, then that's your coin flip decision. You have to make that choice like first in your lineup. Are you not playing him?
I think you're 100% right. And if you play him, you got to play him with a certain mindset. And then if you don't play him, you have to play him with a certain mindset.
Exactly. Yeah, different mindset.
Right.
Like, I'm not playing him. I know I need a top leverage running back. And I'll be saving money on basically whoever it is because Sailors will probably be the top running back again.
For example, it was a mistake, but I played Butler instead of Sailors, knowing that, Sailors is going to be high owned. I knew he'd be at least 40%. If Butler at the same price range went off instead of Sailors, then that was a good play because Butler was only 9% owned and had a similar superstar workload. Obviously, he didn't get there, but he did get an end zone target. Like, they just didn't have to. I thought the game would be more competitive than people thought. Now, Donnie was always really low on the Houston Roughnecks. So maybe I should have, believed more into Donnie. Their offensive line was really that good. We'll see. Donnie, you back with us?
Yeah, I am. I have a couple notes on the games itself, just not even DFS wise. When you look at the scores, this week wasn't a great week football wise. San Antonio looked bad. I don't think San Antonio's bad. That looked like we're getting, you're trying to get back in the groove. Same thing with Birmingham. I think DC's just better this year. And Alex Magoo, first time playing real football in 3 years, basically, because he's been in the practice squad for a while. Right. They'll figure that out. A lot of this is going to be, okay, it's week 1. We need to figure stuff out. And I don't want to overreact too much because I still believe Birmingham's the best team in the league. But DC might be catching up. I know the gap's closing overall between the league. Houston still sucks, in my opinion. Michigan and Memphis are very good teams. I feel like there's literally 6 good teams in this league right now.
Yeah, I really think the only team that played great was the Battlehawks in St. Louis, and then there was a bunch of other pretty good performances. I don't think anyone played bad.
I agree. St. Louis played really well, I thought, but Arlington just sort of blew out of what looked to be not an in-sync San Antonio team.
Yeah. And Kellen Mond
I think San Antonio's good. I think San Antonio's fine. They just need to figure it out.
Well, Kellen Mond was pretty transparent and honest. He said there was a lot of newness on this team, including him, the quarterback. There was no, we talked about how there's a lot of collective people coming back. There was a lot of, Sal Canales and Luis Perez had known each other, had played together. There was none of that with San Antonio, so they might be the most explosive offense. But I think Mon said he had 14 days or 16 days to really learn the offense and feel comfortable with it. He's things are moving a lot faster. And he said that before the game. I do think they have the most talent, but we saw even in Kirkland, he got involved late in that game, into the third and fourth quarter. It just felt like everything was a bit slowed. Like they almost didn't trust it, even though it was there, even though the talent was there and the scheme was there. they didn't trust it yet. I think some of those things are going to be worked out in week 2 and week 3, And Gov, I think you mentioned off stream at the beginning, just like you could overreact so easily to week 1, and that was one of the things you didn't want to do. Like you didn't want to make any grand stands tonight because you're like so much of it can change.
Yeah, week 1 is any sport. NFL season, week 1, you don't have all the data. You don't have everything coming for a team and how they're playing and all of that. So you have to take some guesses, and you're not going to be right or wrong on everything. You might be, but like I don't have anything to tell me that I could be.
Mm-hmm. Well, NFL is another monster too. Because
do you guys have anything?
Like from the game, I thought Memphis looked better than what they showed. They just couldn't get the run game going quick enough. But I think that might be the most explosive offense, considering their number 1 receiver was out of that game. But they have to get a quarterback. I don't like the 2 quarterback setups. I know multiple teams do it in the UFL, but I'm against it. I think you got to pick a quarterback and go with it, unless you're going to use it like a gadget situation where he truly is a gadget. I don't like it where you like pretty much rotate the quarterbacks like practice.
I agree. You got to find your guy there. You really do.
Right. Now maybe you have a role.
Embrace the offense that works best with the guy.
Right.
I do want to ask. Is there anything like that you saw this week that you want to overreact to? Because there is one thing I saw that I'm all in on, and I believe it to be true.
I basically want to underreact to everyone else's overreaction, if that makes sense. So, like, Sailors was 55% owned. I expect him to be 75%. And so, and we don't even have contests out right now. But if I'm going to assume his ownership is going to be higher, let's just say 66%. I'm almost instantly thinking of ways to fade it, but I don't want to like commit to it. I think that's one of the worst things you can do. And I think a lot of people are going to commit to like, oh, well, I've seen this. This is supposed to be a niche sport. The information's like lower, like we've already talked about. And so therefore, I'm just going to play all the guys who dominated last week. And that sounds like a stupid strategy. And it sounds like, oh, most people won't do that. But like we know that people will overreact to things that worked in week 1 and more popular sports. I just feel like I want to interpret what happened in week 1 and try to not get too carried away with what could be happening. But at the same point,
did you have anything?
I didn't get to watch the Sunday games, so like again,
Birmingham just couldn't score.
I kind of agree with you on San Antonio that like I don't think they're bad. I just think they were like not in sync. Like something was up. They just weren't there in that game. They a lot of mistakes. Like I agree with you. I think they're better than that, but I still think they might be the worst team in the league too.
But that's where I think the leverage is playing an offense that underperformed that you think is still talented. Like I would go back to Mond and Kirkland. The thing that let them down the most, and it is alarming if it's true, I think they had the most holds of any offensive line. Like it seemed like every big play was a hold. And
that really hurt them.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm talking, Gov, they were holding on first down sometimes. Like they got themselves behind the sticks very badly.
No, my big thing is like that I'm gonna overreact to probably, and I maybe should tone it back a bit. But man, did Jakeer Pearson look like he was back to full health? Like he looked like himself. He looked like the 2 years ago Pearson that we used to play a lot.
I'll say this, Donnie. I thought he was the best receiver, and I think if that game was close and they needed a pass and they needed that offensive explosion, I think I have no problem saying he's probably the number 1 option.
Like he is really good. St. Louis clearly has the best receiving room. If Pearson's healthy along with Butler, it's not even close.
Yeah, no, we mentioned Butler was hurt.
That's 2 top 5 receivers on their team, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, maybe Butler being hurt is just a sore hamstring and he's going to come back and that thing will fully heal and he'll take over the number 1 role. But I think it's a good problem to have is when you have two good receivers. And I honestly think we just didn't see it because they didn't need it. I think if we had seen a full game, I think Pearson could have been the number one receiver and probably scored almost 30 points. Like, truly, he looked that good.
He looked back to himself. He looked like the, I remember a couple of years ago we were having the conversation like Pearson might be the best guy, and he just never was able to get healthy last year. We knew it from the start. But I expect him to be back to full strength now.
Did we get too cute with the running back? Because like that's an information that edge that I'm not ashamed of, and I would still make it even if I knew the same results, because this was a guy that was going to be under-owned based on he was a starter projected. His salary opened up so much. It's what allowed us to play all of the guys in the order we played them in. And we still took chances on a talented Pearson who actually showed out. And this lineup almost won. I think it would have won had we gotten a game from the Stallions that we thought we were going to get on defense. That's where we kind of played it safe, and we just didn't get that safety net. But I'm not mad at how this came about, and I think I would take a similar chance, given that it worked out so much for us last year.
I think with Lingard, like that was the biggest lie we've been told in the UFL. I don't remember last year like a blatant lie from a coach. That was a blatant lie. Like he was the starter. He went in the game as the starter, and he didn't get any work.
So is that where you blame the coaching
it.
staff? Do you blame the coaching staff there, Donnie? Do you blame the like beat reporters? Like, do you just not trust them?
It's no one's fault.
Yeah.
Per se, it's just like the depth chart wasn't what like it was a weird choice on the depth chart, and it doesn't really matter. Like, at the end of the day, what happened happened.
Yeah.
I don't care. I'm still gonna make that play.
I knew he was the plotter. Like, he was the plotter. He was the goal line back. He wasn't the pass catcher. So if the game got really out of control, I just thought the value was there, because if they do get to the red zone, we're talking about a guy that's at minimum price who I think would have been a bad play had he been like 40% owned or had that Sailor ownership, but he didn't have that ownership. Like all the news coming out was that people were nervous of it. So I like to play more and more. So I can't back off it now. It was wrong, but ultimately I still make the same decision based on the same information I had going into the week.
I am going to make a complaint too about the UFL. That I made this complaint a lot last year. Is how are we in season 2 of the UFL, in season whatever of spring football, and we still can't Google the scores? We have to go to Fox's site or ESPN's site to see the scores in box score. Why can't I just look up UFL scores this week and it be there in my face?
Because, Donnie, if we're being honest, it's a niche sport. It's amateur hour sometimes. Like, as much as I love it, and as much as like the broadcast has fun with it, and they've really embraced some of like the beer snake and some of the fun atmosphere stuff, it is a lower level. Like, there is some error that we got to expect. The viewership actually was pretty good, and like again, I'm going to stop comparing it to the NFL because I like the sport.
Oh, I found the running back, by the way. The one I was talking about. The top scorer this week was Jay Howard. I'm not even sure his first name. 13 rushes, 115 yards, and a touchdown, but one was a 74-yard rush.
Yeah, I kept calling him Heresy. That's how much I know about the sport. That is the backup for the Battlehawks, though.
Yeah, so he was the highest scoring guy this week, and in the single entry contest, he was 0.0% owned.
But that speaks to it. I watched a lot of snaps of the UFL. I'm a big fan, but even I missed the name. Like, that just shows you the misinformation and like how much we are unfamiliar with this. And I think Gov is right. Sometimes you just have to observe what's happening. And like, we can't get our expectations too high. Some of the stuff is really fun. Like I said, they interact with the crowd, being mic'd up and miking up the coaches. Like, you get some fun interaction. By the way, the DC coach and then Lou Holtz got into it because it was really interesting. A lot of that stuff is really interesting, being able to get mic'd up. Some of they got like a chest camera now. They get some like GoPros on their chest. Some of that stuff is really cool. But you're going to get the amateur production at times too, Donnie. I remember you text me in the middle of the one game that they had mispronounced the the start time or the two teams playing at the end of the game.
They gave us the wrong teams playing on the next Sunday or the first Sunday game. They mixed up the game, and that's just such a stupid mistake.
Yeah.
I mean, that really irritated me. Just as like I know it, there's no way if you work for Fox.
It's like Logan said, amateur hour. Like it's upsetting, but it is. Yeah.
It's upsetting because you have like the actual announcers there. You have guys who have done this job for a while, and you still didn't get the information right.
Well, it's like to find folks at Fantasy Points who are covering the UFL, some of our DFS competition, if you will. They're like, hey, I expect the information to be lacking. I expect to have to dig for this information. It's kind of like the NBA where it's like live before lock and information is going to change quickly and I have to adjust. We expect that kind of stuff. Like I'm not expecting like top-notch reporting, depth charts to be released, them to be in pristine condition. But when we get total misinformation, I can understand why you're frustrated, Donnie.
It's not like if you said the wrong player name, fine. If you said the wrong coach name, whatever. Mm-hmm. Don't tell me the wrong schedule. It's right in front of your face. Like that's annoying. It's a layup. It's blatantly a layup, and I know because I do a similar job with the radio station, covering sports. It's a layup. Write it down. You have it in front of you. Get it right. That's why it frustrates me, I think, the most.
There's a difference between a fanatic like us who we're not just fans because we're coming from a DFS perspective. So we have a lot of angles into it. We have a lot of reasons to care. So like when we get it wrong, it's slightly embarrassing, but it's their job professionally to get it right, and they still get it wrong. That is an expectation and a failure to do your job that you can hold. But to Gov's point, like it is still a low level.
It's just the person who said it is a guy who worked on NFL games, so that's why it's annoying to me. Like he just didn't get it right openly. And like I said, if you said a player name wrong, it's whatever. I don't care.
Yeah, the last 20 minutes of this conversation we'll go back to DFS, but I got to say I love like the mics and the coaches being able to talk to you, as the game's going on. I love all that stuff. That interaction at the end of the DC game with the Stallions was very telling. Apparently, the DC coach who replaced Reggie Barlow basically felt like he was dismissed by Holtz coming into the season and basically was misdiagnosed as basically the doorman. He didn't know he was a coach, apparently, during the training camp. So he felt like disrespected by Lou Holtz. So as soon as he won, they started jawing and there was some real animosity. But I like that kind of emotion. Like that's the kind of stuff you want to see in a league that's trying to take it serious.
Another thing I want to note about the Brahmas before we go back to DFS stuff is, and I don't know if it affected the game. I really don't. But there was some clock management errors with San Antonio that isn't normal. Wade Phillips wasn't on the field. He was in the press box. Like the coach box, whatever you want to call it. That's weird for your head coach.
But usually he lets Smith run that offense, AJ Smith. So
I know usually he's kind of the defensive only guy. But your head coach should be on the field, I think.
I think more.
I know he's an old man, but
I just want more practice time in the UFL. I think if they're going to make a change for next season, give them an actual training camp, an actual 2 months to get ready. I think we would see a lot better football because I'm telling you, by week 3
I think the NFL training camp's only a month.
Yeah. Maybe that extra couple of weeks really does make a difference though, because we saw a lot of things out of sync. Gov, if you were to look at this lineup, though, do you think we can take any? It's one of my favorite quotes when we do any review shows. But is there anything you can take from what we did wrong, right, or indifferent in this lineup and apply it for next week?
I think we were on the right track.
Mm-hmm.
I think we just need to take the information we have now have and try to move forward with it. So San Antonio was out of sync. They're probably not going to be a good stack. They're going to be very erratic.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe great for a GPP, but not a single entry or something like that. But we got good ownership. We had some chalky stuff. If Sailors is going to be 50-60% owned, that's going to be question one every week now,
Mhm.
just like when
Well,
McCaffrey
and he
was there.
split
It's
the
like,
snaps 50-50. That's what kills me on that one. He was
But the-
50-50 on
that
the snap.
could just be to the game script, though. Like, when
Yeah.
they start getting up, like, once you're up a touchdown or 10 points, you should give the backup, like, half a series. And then once you're up 2 touchdowns, you should give them a whole series. Like, that just makes
Well,
sense.
Keep in mind, a one-possession game is 9 points in the UFL, so
Yeah, I
it's
was
not
just
the
gonna say
same.
that is the interesting and exciting part about the DFS angle that I don't think enough people consider because they don't go out for extra points. That 2-point conversion, I think we saw it with Sal Canales and even Adams had a chance to catch an extra point like that. That could have made a difference. So that's a good
And
note.
Sean Mariner was a guy who I played at 6,200. He only got 6 points, had a decent amount of targets. He missed a touchdown, like it was right to him, and it just went over his head a little bit too much. But he was targeted in the red zone, which is important. At a 36% owned, a lot of people probably will be mad at that, but he probably is on my radar next week.
Well, we were debating him, speaking of the lineup, and we went with Adams, which looks like it was a good play. It's not that he was a bad play. He obviously got 6, catches and 93 yards in the touchdown. But to your point, if Mariner had caught some of his targets and one of those were a touchdown, he could have easily outscored 21 points. So, we were, to Gov's point, to circle back, we were on the right track. But when you build something like this and you do a starts and scripts kind of build like we did, we're fading the Sailors play. So we needed Sailors to fail. If Sailors fails, this lineup cashes.
Or even if Sailors doesn't fail and our guy hits like the same sort of value.
Yeah,
like Sailors got to like 24 at his price. Like, so
right.
If Lingard gets us like 18, 17 at his price, we're still live. Like, you add that to our score right now, we're cashing comfortably.
Also, I do want to say this because, Gov, you didn't watch the Stallions game. I'm assuming you said you missed it.
I missed the Sunday game, Chips.
Okay.
No, the
so,
Stallions. Wait, yeah, I didn't. I missed the Birmingham game on Sunday. Yeah.
Okay, so Alex Magoo looked awful passing-wise, 10 of 23, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. He had 8 rushes for 84 yards. All those rushes were not designed. I know last year their quarterback, Martinez, led the league in rushing on basically designed runs. These were not designed runs. They didn't run that offense at all. So it's very interesting to see that. I imagine they're going to put more of that Martinez playbook in now that Magoo had this kind of game. But the offensive line looked bad too. Birmingham had 4 of their 5 offensive linemen return, and they looked bad. DC embarrassed them.
Donnie, I know a lot of people might have heard it on the broadcast, and a lot of people on social media like X and other platforms were making fun of it. But Alex Magoo actually was converted to wide receiver in the NFL with the Green Bay Packers. They brought him in as a quarterback because he played in the XFL and these other spring leagues, and quickly converted him to wide receiver because they had so many injuries. So he's athletic. And that was the joke, is like the reason the offense wasn't moving was because they brought in a wide receiver to play quarterback, and that was like the ha-ha joke. But if that offense is more efficient and they're not as badly ran, and they kind of have a bounce back week, I do think the kind of athletic explosion and potential of Alex Magoo might go underappreciated for next week.
Well, I will say, yeah, maybe, but if it starts off slow, we've seen it. Skip Holtz is not afraid to pull his quarterback, and Magoo, man, he was not picking up blitz protections. Like, the offensive line looked bad, but I think it's Magoo's fault. He was not miking the great guys, just blatantly having his offensive line. His left tackle missed a lot of blocks. I think that was on Magoo. He got yelled at a lot if I had the broadcast audio on. I know you don't. Skip Holtz was digging into him like, why are you taking this sack? Just throw it away. And he was mad.
And I will say, I do know one thing about Skip Holtz. He's not usually a fiery guy. He doesn't have that Jim Schwartz kind of mentality. He doesn't have that Jim Harbaugh like rah mentality. He's known for being cool, calm, and collected. Like, that is his selling point as a coach. So the fact that he was that angry does speak.
I mean, he calmed it down after he yelled at him. Like, he went over and like, hey, we'll get it next time. But like, no, he was mad. He was taking all those sacks. I'm sure you saw the game, Logan. It was bad, the sacks he was taking. 20-yard losses on some of these
That's
plays.
one thing. It's such a drastic difference from his normal personnel that like I do think there is something to that.
So I'm actually scared to play Magoo, but that makes me want to play him maybe, because if his price drops again, he was the MVP for a reason in 23.
I still think
he
the
didn't
most
just
talented,
not.
Yeah, the most talented quarterback. I didn't mean to cut you off, man, but the most talented quarterback is Kellerman to me still. I think that.
Yeah,
offense,
I agree.
I just think that offense has the most room to grow, and like they still have Kirkland, they still have NFL level wide receivers. I will say, since we transitioned back to that game really quickly, Ward got a lot more targets than I expected.
Yeah.
So I know we're jumping around and we're not really covering the lineup as much, but with as much information that wasn't known coming into week one, I just feel like all these tidbits are very important. So if you guys want to go back and listen, picked up on something, that's great. Please like and, subscribe and give us some credit in the comments. Anything we might have missed as well. Donnie, but if you looked at this lineup, I kind of asked of that question initially, but if you looked at this lineup, is there anything that you're like embarrassed by or you think we made a mistake on? You just wish we would have done differently? I'm actually very proud of this lineup, I should say.
I love the build going in. I still love it coming out. Like, Lingard was the only guy I was like, I don't know who the hell this is. I have no idea who you are. And I was told he was the starter. So I played him.
Right.
Okay.
So you do that,
whatever.
You do that next week? Like, say there's a 4K guy. Like, right now, we don't know, but like, let's say someone pulled a hamstring in practice or something, and there's a 4K guy that's projected to start. Does this scare you off? Like, does this result?
No, last year it won us like twice or three times. So it was like, okay.
It was Durant, by the way, for the St. Louis Battlehawks that won us that money.
Yeah.
So get the name.
Like, last year it worked. So I'm like, what if it failed one time? I don't. It's worked more than it hasn't.
Yeah, when it's
That's
available,
I'm
I'm
still
still willing to. Yeah, when it's available, I'm still willing to play it. Yeah. Now, if that situation wasn't there, would I have been more likely to just play Sailors? Probably.
Mm-hmm. Now, in our Discord community coming into this game, I was having a discussion with one of our key members, and they were worried that Lingard's ownership was going to be so high that he would be a scare-off kind of chalky moment. Gov, if the ownership on a 4K guy is a lot higher, would that scare you off more than like the actual starting position?
No.
See, that's where I was.
See, kinda. Because when he's that owned, I need him to like really bury me ceiling. So a cheap guy usually doesn't do that.
Yeah.
But it's also really hard to hit his value that he can hit. So
see, my problem is even if like let's just say he had Sailors on his but he was 55%. I feel like I've built so many stars and scrubs with different sports, and that's just my mentality that I can get different enough even if I'm playing a chalky piece. Like playing one chalky piece with a salary saver like that gives me the ability to be so different and so unique because maybe I get a Hakeem Butler and a Kirkland in or a Sailors and Kirkland. I feel like I can get a lot different. And because I'm used to that kind of construction, I can usually do it better than other people. At least that's my belief. That's like my DFS calling card. So if I can't do that, maybe then I should just stop playing. That's always been my mentality.
Well, I mean, I know we don't want to get too much into next week, but we have some really I think this is the best week of scheduled games we're going to probably have for a while. All the good teams are playing each other, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. Or we have a rematch of both conference championships, and then we get to see Memphis against DC looked really good. So Memphis against DC should be good. I think we got 3 out of the 4 games that are going to be really fun. So I'm excited for that going into next week and next week's build.
Now, I did want to mention because maybe you decided to play week 1, but you didn't. Or sorry, you decided to watch week 1, but you were kind of like Gov. You wanted to observe. You didn't know if you wanted to invest a lot of money. Hopefully, they fill contests. I know they're going to be smaller than most contests you play in. I play the WNBA, so I'm kind of used to smaller prize pools, but I know that scares some people off. But in case you don't know, they do start on Friday. I like the setup, but a lot, like, I just want to re-emphasize that because most people might not know because this is a new format. I like the format. It always starts on Friday on Fox. It's kind of their like reverse Monday Night Football. They start with their kind of primetime game. They'll lead off the week, and then they bleed it over into the weekend. I actually really like it. Do you think it did anything to your viewership? Do you think it helped, like, breaking up these games? Do you think it added some kind of special feature to it at all?
Not really.
See,
It was just like a normal, again, it might feel a little different if I was able to watch the games on Sunday, but no, it just felt like, okay, yeah, there was a game Friday, there was a game Saturday, and maybe if I'd have watched the games on Sunday, it would have been better or different. But no, it didn't really have anything special.
See,
It also wasn't
because I wasn't overwhelmed with football.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good thing. And maybe I buy into it a bit more. Like, I'm always trying to get the most value out of my DFS lineups. So it kind of reminded me of golf where it starts on Thursday and then you always got something to sweat. So I kind of liked it, but maybe that's just a cosmetic Cinderella effect and it really had no effect on the outcome. But I do think there was a small
with the fact I play PGA too, it's I'm used to that. So it's no, this was just normal.
Yeah. I do think there was a small edge, though. I do think there was probably some dead lineups, so some people making maybe not dead.
I didn't take any advantage of any late swap opportunities if I could have. I'll say that.
And maybe that's just a situation where it didn't really occur this week, but I do think that's still a big edge where people are just not going to consider the schedule enough where we might be able to make some late swap opportunities. I did want to highlight really quickly the actual comments that were said here, and then we'll get out of here if you guys don't have anything else to say. But let me share this on Twitter. Just because I do like some of the gossip. This is actually what was said on the field according to the two guys. It did get heated. See, I like having the mics hooked up because now we know what was said. We knew it was a heated moment, and then we have the follow-up. And so I like that kind of transparency. Obviously, maybe this interaction with coaches isn't valuable, but I do think maybe we get a player-to-player interaction where we can start to lean more into usage and familiarity. So I'm always paying attention to stuff like this. I do think it makes the league different, so maybe I'm leaning into it more because I know it's one of their defining features. But I really did enjoy that, so I just want to highlight that one more time before I get out of here. Donnie, any last thoughts for the people?
No, I do have the attendance numbers though for the league. If you want me to
go ahead, they were pretty good.
Let's go through that.
I was going to bring them up as well, but if you got them, go ahead.
Pull them up on screen, but I sent them to you.
Yeah, I do have them somewhere here, so maybe I won't even have to do that. Hold on. I didn't send that many tweets today. I didn't think. Maybe I did.
I have the numbers. Basically, that's important. San Antonio for Arlington's game. They averaged a couple hundred over their average last year. They got they got about 10,000 there. Memphis's was very disappointing. They had only 4,000 people attend, and last year they averaged almost 7. So, and that was a good game. Everyone else went up by about 200 on their average, but Memphis really was bad.
See, I'm actually encouraged by Memphis because I thought they played good enough, and they were missing their number one offensive weapon. What would the Battlehawks look like if they didn't have Sailors? What would San Antonio look like if they didn't have Kirkland? I truly think that Memphis has the most room to grow, and I would be attacking them early still. Their quarterbacks look shaky. I do think they got to stick with either EJ Perry or Williams, but outside of that, I do think they have the biggest room to grow. Since you found that number, Donnie, I did find a thing I wanted to highlight really quickly. A UFL content creator did create a kind of power ranking for us to follow each week. Would you agree with this list? I do not, but I'm just curious if you do.
Hmm.
I thought they had the Brahmas way too low. Houston's obviously the worst team in my opinion. They didn't like.
Yeah, I don't think the Stallions. Yeah, like 7 and 8 are about right.
Yeah, and I'm not going to argue 1 or 2 either.
Like the Brahmas might be like better in the future, but what they showed, like 7 and 8's right. You could even flip those.
Yeah.
Like from what I see, like week 1, like I think you probably should make DC. Like,
DC 1.
Well, maybe like Arlington was good though. Like, but
They were.
like 1 and 2 could be debatable, but I think that's right.
And Michigan was somewhere in the middle. Like I do think no matter however you shuffle the rest of it, they were.
I feel like it's a little disrespectful to Birmingham. Birmingham probably should be a little higher just for losing, because like coming in, you would have probably had them 1 or 2 anyway.
Mm-hmm. Which is why Donnie wanted to play the defense in week 1. I mean, we just thought they were the safest team. It's interesting though.
We'll see though. We'll see though how accurate this ends up being.
I follow these fellas, so they're going to update this, I think, every week. So we'll, at the end of each show, we'll give you a recap of it and kind of give you our thoughts. I'm not terribly mad at the list. I would do it slightly different, but we kind of walk through that. Is there anything else we want to mention? I think we might have lost Donnie again, but hopefully he's back at least to say goodnight.
No, I think that's about it for me.
Well, not. So good night, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Like and subscribe again on your way out, and then join us this. What are we gonna try to do? Thursday again? Thursday made sense.
Yeah, we gotta do it Thursday night probably.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, Thursday night before the Friday game, we'll get it.
So Thursday night, we'll try to give you the most up-to-date information. I know it's a bit late, but obviously being a late Thursday gives you the best chance for information, and that's really the biggest key that we can give you coming into a league that's undercovered. So with that being said, good night, guys. Have a good one.
Peace out, everyone.